G'day guys, it's Mark here from North Oz, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you my thoughts after 1,000 kilometers and 1 month of driving around my 2023 79 Series Landcruiser dual cab ute. So without further ado, let's get stuck into it. And we're going to start straight away, guys, with the negatives. So I just came back from having the 1 month, 1,000 kilometer check done on the vehicle, and they did find a couple of things wrong. So one of the things that kind of bothered me and that I reported to them was that the steering would be really severely pulling to the left. So I'll have to have the steering wheel a lot to the right. So that was one of the things that probably should have been pulled up on before I took ownership of the vehicle, was the alignment. And they did mention that as well. So that's something that they're very honest up there at John Cole Toyota up at Atherton. They're honest about the servicing. They're honest about, what's wrong with the vehicle. And of course, it was no charge to me to do all the alignments. The other thing as well is the handbrake. I'd have to pull the handbrake so far up to be able to, for it just to not to move. So they have adjusted that as well. So that's nowhere near as bad as it was. So that's pretty much, the main things that are wrong with the vehicle in terms of the negatives. So we're going to get into the negatives now of what I have noticed with this coming from the Hilux. And the first thing is, you guys can probably tell, and I'm probably almost shouting into the microphone, the first thing is the wind noise. The wind noise in here is much, much worse than what it is and what it was in my Hilux, my 2023 Hilux Rogue. The wind noise from the snorkel, from the wind coming into the door jambs, and yeah, there's things that you can do for it to minimize it. Is it that big of a deal? No, it's not. A lot of people talk about how it adds to fatigue and tiredness. For me, it actually keeps me awake. In the Hilux, sometimes I get so comfortable, sometimes I get a little bit sleepy. You get yourself in this nice little dark space. Everything was dark, and you got the aircon cranked up, and I start to get a little bit sleepy in that car. But I don't find that with this vehicle, not at all. You got the wind noise as well. You got a lot of visibility, a lot of light. So that's something as well to consider, is that if you are going from a Hilux or something, the first thing you got to notice when you jump into the car is the wind noise. And that is something that doesn't really bother me day to day. It's more like we're traveling right now, where I've got cruise control set to 100, and you're starting to get a lot more of that wind starting to make its way in. So for me, that is something that is a little bit of a bother if you're trying to have a conversation going 100 k's an hour and you do have a bit of wind around. We have abnormal winds at the moment, so it does make a little bit more wind noise than normal. Moving on to the next thing, I'm trying to find a few of the negatives, and one of the negatives was storage. You can see that I have my elbow sitting on something, and that's because I've installed an aftermarket armrest, and it has in here, it has a little compartment, it has a little pocket in there. So that's really handy. It's got some extra storage in there too, extra room for 2 cups as well, which is pretty cool. And I've also got a Scan Gauge 3 built into it too with all my accessories. So if you haven't seen me install this yet, there is a video out on that, so you can go and check that out. But the difference, I haven't had a chance to talk about the difference between that and the standard console that is in here, where I would be putting my arm in my lap. Bit strange. So that's something that I really appreciate about having the center console. That's from the Department of the Interior. If you guys wanted to pick yourself up one as well, super easy to install. And storage is a big issue with this car. So the glove compartment, I got so used to the Hilux having all the extra little spots and slots, and in this car, the glove compartment, so the glove box is really tiny, so small. And as well, the storage unit that I had in here before was so small you couldn't put anything in there anyway. And it had like a coin tray thing in there anyway. So you can't put anything, if you want to store things like your towels, first aid kits, anything like that, you just don't have the room for it. So that's where this comes in handy. And I also did install from the Department of the Interior a roof shelf. So I've got a roof shelf up here as well, and I can keep things like mounts for the action camera that you guys are watching right now. I can keep all that within my grasp, within my reach, without having to, fumble around too much. Up here as well, I've got things like, sanitary wipes, things like that. So all the things that you guys kind of need, and all the things that I need on a daily basis, I got it all up there, and I know where it all is. So that, again, Department of the Interior as well, and that was super simple to install as well. I did a same video for the center console that we did. Dad and I installed that. So good little father-son project, having a great time with it. So storage is something that, you know, is a bit of a downside with this vehicle. The next thing, and it's something that, you know, I knew going into the vehicle, is the fact that it's got terrible audio. The audio system in here is atrocious. It's got 2 4-inch speakers, one here and one down there. Listen, it's okay if you're going like under 80k an hour and you don't want too much bass and you don't want too much like noise, like you don't want the level of it to be too loud. Unfortunately, I've been spoiled with custom sound systems and stuff that I've done myself, and these aren't going to cut it, so I've got a solution for that coming up. However, you know, it is very tempting to just replace those 4-inch speakers with just one more good speaker. So if you could replace both of them with a really good 4-inch speaker, I think you'd actually be pretty happy with it, to be fair. I don't think you need to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars on it. It's my opinion anyway. So the audio in this is terrible. And the 2008 RAV4 head unit, listen, I still get Bluetooth through it, so I have no concerns with it. And things like CarPlay and stuff, like I don't really need. I can just access all that through just like my phone just being there. Like I can just bring my maps up and just have it on my maps and that. So I really don't need the maps on here just yet. Maybe one day I might, you know, get annoyed with it and I might change my mind a little bit. Now I'm going from 100 kilometers down to 80 now. And I don't know if you guys can pick up on the microphone or not, the difference in the noise. But I tell you what, it is quite substantial when you are driving. Okay, so that, listen guys, I'm trying to do all this is in one take if I can, but I'll try to reduce my chopping up of it because I want this to be kind of like a raw, get a feeling of what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to mince my words very much. The electric windows, although it doesn't bother me too much, it is a bit of a hassle because trying to take off these door cards with a manual winder is a lot more difficult than if you had just an electrical system. However, 20 years from now, I don't have to chase up all the relays and all the wiring and all the actuators and all that rubbish to be able to fix the doors one day. So I regretted that a lot. In my patrol, I spent a lot of the time chasing down the gremlins with the electricals in that car. And one of the things that I had issues with was the windows, the wind-up window, the electric windows in that car. So wind-up windows was a must for this vehicle. Another downside, one more that I'll chuck in there, is the fact that the wheels and tires don't look that great. Don't really like the look of them that much, but you know, it does the job, and I'm not going to run out and spend $3,500 grand on it. Okay. Next thing as well is, unfortunately, it doesn't have lockers. Bit of a disappointment. You know, I spent nearly $90,000 on this car. Doesn't have lockers. You know, a bit annoying. I have to go out now and get them installed. So that's something that I will be doing next year before my next Cape York trip. So in terms of that, listen, I'm going to go to the positives now, and I have to say that there are those negatives are far outweighed by the positives. The positives of this vehicle, things like your cruise control. Listen, a lot of people rubbish these vehicles and say that they don't have anything at all. It's actually got quite a bit. I mean, you got your things like your cruise control, right? You got things like, and you know, it's got your DPFs and it's got all that stuff in it, and it actually still does have quite a few sensors. So that still needs to be considered if you want one of these vehicles, is that, yeah, although they are a basic vehicle and they have less technology and less sensors than other vehicles, they still do have technology in them. So that's something you need to consider. Having said that, with that in mind, it has enough. It's got your, you know, the pre-warning collision detection, and it's got some of those modern niceties that some people out there might want. In terms of the positives, listen, I love these seats. These seats are great, and Dad agrees that these seats are actually more comfortable than what my Hilux Rogue seats were. And that's a pretty big statement because they were pretty comfy. And I think it's got a lot to do with the way that the seats are positioned in the vehicle. You're not lean back and you're not low, so the pressure isn't so much on your bump, it's more on your thighs because of how upright you sit in this thing. Talking about how upright you sit, you're probably wondering, do I have enough headroom? Yes, I got plenty of headroom in this thing. The only thing that you might struggle with if you're a bigger bloke or lady is your leg room. There is not a lot of leg room in this thing, and my chair is all the way back as far as possible. I am about 180-ish centimeters, something like that. So, you know, for me, I reckon I could quite comfortably be a little bit bigger and still fit in this fine, maybe like 6'2" or something like that. You could probably still fit in here fine, but if you're 6'3" and above, I think you might have some issues and you might need to look at an aftermarket seat. I did take a couple of taller blokes in here earlier, and they really struggled for comfort. So that's something to consider. You don't really want to be a passenger in this car if you're a bigger person. Talking about the comfort, and it has enough things in here. You know, the aircon is a big bonus. Oh my goodness. The air conditioner in this is so much better than the air conditioner in my Hilux. I cannot tell you the difference. It is insane, and it's cold halfway between when I get home, as opposed to a Hilux, which was just starting to cool down as I was getting home. So that is a huge bonus, and that's something I'm very appreciative of, is that this aircon is unreal, and it has the crutch cooler. The best thing since sliced bread is it's got a little vent down here that ventilates your crutch area. So that's the nicest way I can put it. So that is an absolute godsend on a hot day. Oh, probably one of my favorite things about the vehicle. In terms of other things, I really like how easy it is to modify this car. There is so many things you can get for this vehicle, and which is a good thing. That's what you want. You want to have a selection of things, because then you kind of have a look at it. Don't put it all in here. Have a look and assess your needs. Have a look and think, you know what, I could probably get away with not having to have that in my car, you know? But you have a look at the different products, like, you know what, that's actually bothering me a lot, like this. That is something that I will get, okay? There are so many things for this vehicle, and they aren't very expensive, you know, because there's not a lot of technology, there's not a lot of wires, and it's not hard to put these things in this vehicle. So things like roof racks and stuff, you don't need to drill holes in your roof, you don't need to do any of that rubbish, because it's got the sills. It is a very easily modified vehicle, which again, to me, is a very big bonus. Now, it does, of course, have your four-wheel drive. I'll be doing a four-wheel drive video on this soon, so I'll be doing a review on that specifically then, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. Moving on, we got to talk about the engine, okay? The engine and the transmission. The 5-speed, it hums along fine. We're going 100 kilometers an hour at the moment, and it's doing about 1900 revs. Perfect. Don't want it anymore. The only reason why it feels like it's revving high is because of the wind noise. Now, a lot of people will probably think, oh, it's a V8, turbo diesel, how is it on fuel? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to put the exact number up on the screen for you. This did around 9.5 litres per 100 kilometres on the first tank. And that's with the front hubs locked. I've locked the front hubs for now, just to get all the oils and stuff moving around in it. That was a recommendation given to me by a dealer. And they said to just get all the oils and stuff going around in it for the first 1,000 or so Ks. So when I get home, I'm going to be unlocking those, putting them on auto, putting the hubs on auto. So, I mean, it really is, to me, it fits me perfect. And I think that's something that I have to say, is that this vehicle almost fits me like a glove. It's really hard wearing vehicle. It's a really tough vehicle. I can tell that from the last month of driving it around. And a lot of people ask me, why would I switch from the Hilux to the Landcruiser? And I'll get to that in a second, because to understand why, you need to have a look at the durability and the overall feel of the vehicle. So am I losing out on ride quality? No, I'm not. That is, again, a shocking revelation, because I would have thought that from going from the Hilux to this was going to be a lot more uncomfortable. And it isn't, surprisingly. It actually rides about the same, give or take. And once I get a load up on the back there, it's going to be so much smoother again as well. Now, I can't speak to the off-road corrugations just yet. That I will save for another video. Thought I missed my turn there, but we're all good. So Now, you guys probably want to know, okay, the Hilux versus the Landcruiser. Why did I go with the Landcruiser? And it's a great choice. It was an opportunistic purchase. So, of course, I'm not sponsored by anyone. The channel's nowhere near big enough, and I think that sponsorships come with its own set of problems anyway. So why would I go with the 79 series over the Hilux? Why would I do it? Well, for me, like I said, it's an opportunistic purchase, okay? It is something that it came up, I inquired, there was one left of the 2023s before it went over the 2024s, and I've made videos on why I don't want a 2024. I don't want a 2024 Landcruiser for a variety of reasons, even if it was the V8. I wanted this look, I wanted this style, I wanted this design. Now, when it comes to the reasoning why, apart from the fact that it was an opportunistic purchase, and apart from the fact that it was, you know, something that just kind of popped up on my radar, and it's that there are less things to go wrong in this vehicle. You guys have to understand that I am doing a lot of rough stuff off-road, and I'm not saying that the Hilux can't handle it. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that this vehicle is designed for a different purpose, and it's built in a completely different factory for a completely different purpose, okay, for completely different reasons, for a completely different clientele. So for me, I bought this as an opportunistic purchase. I want to see what I was missing out on as my last chance to get a new Landcruiser before they started changing them too much. And then I figured, well, worst case scenario, I don't like the Landcruiser, okay? Worst case scenario, it's not for me. And then I can go back to a Hilux or a Prado at any time. But I can't go back to a Landcruiser. I can't go back to a Landcruiser because they won't sell them anymore. They won't sell them in the style that I like. So that's why I changed. And a lot of people have asked me why I changed from the Hilux to the 79. And that was really the main reason. There's no knocking the Hilux. I did a lot in that Hilux. I pushed that thing really hard. But I think that this is going to be my next test. I want to see how this vehicle handles, and if it is any better than a Hilux, if it is any better than the Prado that I've owned. So I'm going to, while I'm driving, I'm going to circle back around to a couple of things. Okay, one of the things that I heard is that the handbrake in this is terrible, and your car's going to go rolling off to the side of the road, and you have to park up on gutters and stick your wheel up onto the gutter to prevent you from rolling away. Haven't had that experience yet, but because I did have a pretty poorly adjusted handbrake, I did have to pull that thing up quite high. Now, I also did hear that the brakes in these are atrocious. Not the case. I feel like the brakes in this are perfectly adequate, if not just a little bit, you know, unladen anyway, without anything in the tray. I think that these vehicles have probably too much brakes. For me, I think the brakes work fine. I don't have any issues with it. It seems to be a point of contention amongst other people, but for me, not so much an issue. I have to talk about one really big positive, and it is the engine. Okay, the engine is worth a lot of money in these things. If you want to buy one from Toyota, it's well over $20,000. Okay, they're expensive. It's an expensive vehicle because, as well, a big reason is because of that engine. Now, the engine in this pulls so hard. I'm in fifth just then, going 80-ish, and I just pulled up to 100, no worries. Everyone judges this vehicle off the 0 to 100 time. Okay, bad idea. First of all, how often do you actually do 0 to 100? Are you in a drag race every time you leave the traffic lights and the roundabout? No, you're not. Okay, it's a ridiculous measure of the capability of a vehicle. And no, this thing is not a speed demon. Okay, it isn't. I just saw a red 2023 Rogue, so I had a quick look to see if that one was mine, and it looked very similar. But this, you know, it's not a fast vehicle. It never is. Even the Hilux wasn't a particularly fast vehicle, you know. However, I am learning to drive it. Sounds a bit funny, but after about 4 weeks, and if you get into one of these 70 series, you may be underwhelmed. You may get into one of these and think, geez, this is a pile of rubbish. And you know what? I almost feel for you and think, you know what, yeah, I almost feel like you're right. You know, if you got in here and you haven't driven this vehicle for a long-ish period of time, I completely agree with you. It probably feels like a pile of rubbish. But because I've driven it, and I was talking to someone earlier today, about how when I first got this car, I also got the flu. And so the car kind of sat for a couple of weeks. I only drove it on very short trips. And I kind of had this bit of buyer's remorse. I kind of had this thinking of, oh, what have I done? I spent all this money on a car that's less capable, has less features than my Hilux. But the more that I've driven this vehicle, it's grown on me a lot. But the reason why is because I've learned how to drive it. I've learned how to put up with the little things like the fact that it doesn't have central locking, so you have to reach around and pull the locks up, and it's got manual winding windows, and it's got all these different things. And for me, it's all part of the charm. I'm not changing any of that. I love that the way it is. I'm going to keep that exactly the same. But it is part of the charm of the vehicle, and it is part of the vehicle and how it grows on you. You learn how to use it. You learn all of its little idiosyncrasies. You learn all of its little tips and tricks that you shut the door the right way. The seals on these doors are ridiculous and they're so heavy. You really do have to slam the doors, and they have that Landcruiser thunk. Sounds unreal, unlike any other vehicle that I've seen. And that I've, lately anyway, very reminiscent of the old vehicles. And that's something that, this vehicle has grown on me, because not anyone can just get in this vehicle and drive it to its full potential. You need to drive it a certain way. It's got your manual transfer case. It's got your manual gear stick, which these days is becoming rarer and rarer of people knowing how to drive manual, because all the cars that are sold are all automatics these days. So it takes it doesn't take a special kind of person, but it takes a time to get used to driving this vehicle and getting used to how this vehicle responds to your input. And I feel like I have a lot more control of this vehicle going up and down, and this is where I'm going to circle back to with the engine. I have a lot more control of the vehicle in different environments. So if I'm going up a steep hill, I know I can drop down to fourth and still hit that hill and go on 60 or 70. If it's a relatively gradient hill, then I know what gear to be in. I can be in fifth and still tackle that hill without having to jump in and out of gears. For context, I had this is the vehicle that started the whole channel is the D22 Nissan Navara. And the amount of times that I was changing in and out of gears because the torque range of the engine was so small that I would be out of the power band and the torque band before I'd even gotten up to any sort of speed, and I have to keep changing gears all the time. And because you have to try and stay in boost, if there's a bit of rain on the road or there's something, there's water sitting on the road, any water you hit, because you're constantly in peak boost, you're just gonna throw the back end out. Now, I haven't had a really good drive in this in really, really severe weather just yet, but in the wet, it's handled just fine. So that gives me, again, it comes back to how the engine feels going down as well, which was a big difference between this and the Hilux, was that going down another road there's plenty of them around, going down the range, so going down Coranda range, you really feel like you have a lot more confidence. You have a lot more confidence in the vehicle's ability to slow down. You can really use the engine braking, which is something that the Hilux did either not at all or too aggressively, which would put the revs up to 3,500, sometimes even 4,000 revs, trying to get the vehicle to slow down, which is absolutely ridiculous. It should not be revving that high. And that automatic transmission, you could just feel was out of date. You could feel it was out of date because it was guessing a lot of the times, going up and down, and the engine braking, trying to use the transmission braking, it didn't do a very good job of that. However, with this vehicle, you know what gear you can be in to slow the vehicle down, and you're not finding yourself building up too much speed where you have to then slam on the brakes. So I'm saving brakes as well. And I find the cruise control, I'm in cruise control right now, and we just went over a hill and it accelerated perfectly fine. and then now we're going down the hill and it can just use this engine braking. What I found to be a big problem on the Hilux is that when you had it in cruise control, the second you hit a hill, it would start speeding up so fast. So I'd have to always keep taking it out of cruise control so I could slow it down, because it just start beeping at you. Okay, that brings me to another positive, and that's the fact that I have been unable to get this thing to beep at me. And do I love it? Oh, the only time it beeps at me is if I have the headlights on or the parkers on and I open the door. And that's the only time I want it to beep at me. So apart from that, you can drive all the way down the road with your seatbelt on. Oh, off, sorry. And it won't, you should have it on, but it won't beep at you if you have it off. So if you're doing, say, off-road tracks, there is actually situations where having the seatbelt off is actually a safer alternative to having it on. Some of the river crossings that I've done, absolutely, I will not have that's my opinion, I will not have my seatbelt on, okay? I think that it is a safety issue. And if you're talking about electrics, it's a manual winding window, so therefore I can, at any given point, I can roll the window down. I don't have to worry about the engine and the electrics dying like I did on the Hilux and trying to get the window down electrically. So these are some of the benefits. I hope that you can start to see some of the benefits of having this vehicle over the Hilux. So that is something that I really like about this, is that it is simple. It doesn't beep at you. It's not whinging at you the whole time. You know, it's something that that makes you love it even more. Okay, it is exactly that. This is a workmate, and that is exactly what I like about the name of this vehicle, is that it is my workmate. I take it to work and I work it pretty hard. It's all part of, you know, making it work, and it loves it. It absolutely loves it. Now, in terms of major issues with the vehicle, I know a lot of people do DPF deletes on these, so that's the diesel particulate filter. It burns off the, I'm having a mental blank, but it burns off a lot of the carbon buildup in the exhaust. And it had just finished doing a DPF burn right now. And in my opinion, another Rogue, there you go. In my opinion, it actually does the DPF burn faster than the Hilux and the Prado did. It does it in a shorter time. So that is something to consider as well, is that it does it around the same every few hundred kilometers or so, but the DPF burn does not last as long. So that's something that I found to be quite interesting. And it means that you don't have to keep getting in the vehicle all the time or park the vehicle up for a longer period of time. I also noticed that on the Hilux and on the Prado, it would suck in a lot of air, and I actually thought that when I was doing the trip to the Cape, I actually thought that there was something wrong with my Hilux, because I thought I sucked something into the I thought the intake had been dusted. It had too much dust in it. So I was frantically cleaning out the intake because I didn't know that it was actually at the very beginning of a DPF burn, and it was sucking in a lot of air, and I could hear it making this funny noise through the snorkel, and I thought that there was a problem, and it was revving really high. But on this vehicle, it doesn't do that. I noticed that the revs jump up a little bit more, but not noticeably. I honestly couldn't tell you it was doing a DPF burn unless I saw the little symbol down the bottom. And again, that is something that I really appreciate on this vehicle, is that it just has a little light telling you it's in the middle of a DPF burn. That's all I need to know, okay? The Hilux would show it with this great big infotainment sign, which meant I had to keep going back out of it all the time to bring my speed back up. So just little things like that where I just, I appreciate the simplicity of the vehicle, and it's not for everyone. I understand that. The simplicity of this vehicle, it's loud. Yeah, it's a bit more bumpy. It's a little bit higher off the ground. There's a lot of things that would prevent people from purchasing a vehicle like this, or the 2024 Landcruiser, putting down a purchase for that, which it looks like they're going to keep selling the V8s of that, which is great. Would I recommend, and this is maybe a big question for you guys, maybe why you're watching this video as well, is would I recommend you to purchase this vehicle? Would I recommend you to go out and buy one? It's a tough recommendation. It really is. I mean, in all honesty, it makes no sense for me to recommend you this car. But if you are like me and you like going off-road and you hate the things that beep at you, and you like the ease of the modifications, if you like doing that stuff yourself and you like the V8, I would 100% go with this vehicle. I would buy it again, 100%. Would I buy it in the dual cab? I don't know. If you need the ute, do it. I don't know. I reckon the Troop Carrier, that might be my next purchase. If I ever did trade this in, I might do a Troop Carrier. I might do that. So that might be an upcoming build, as a Troop Carrier build. But geez, I'd have a hard time trying to sell this 79. I wouldn't want to do it because I just love it so much. The ute is also very handy for my day-to-day as well. I really do enjoy having that tray space. Now, going back to it, would I recommend it for the right person? For the right person, I would. If you're trying to cart your family around in a nice, quiet car, I don't think I could recommend it. I would probably go with something else, even if it is something like a 76 series. But I'd probably go for a Prado over it. Honestly, I think Prados are the best value for money. They have center diff locks, they have rear diff locks, all factory. They're super quiet. Their suspension is unreal from the factory. So for me, for most people, I would probably recommend something like a Hilux or like a Prado. But I mean, I love the 79 so far. It's only been a month. I've done a little bit over 1,200 Ks now, because I've done a couple of 100 Ks this afternoon. And the more I drive it, the more I love it. And I think that's pretty much all you guys need to know, is that if you love the vehicle, then that's what's important. That's if you have an old rusty old Patrol or a rusty old Hilux or a beaten up whatever you have, and you love it, that's all that's important. And for me, I love this 79, and that's really all that matters. So from here, where do we go from here? Modifications. There's going to be a few more of them. There's going to be some I want a one-piece snorkel because it has two pieces. Not ideal. Something that I didn't mention is that it is a raised breather. Okay, it is a raised intake. It is not a fully sealed snorkel. Might do a couple of modifications to the airbox as well, so that I can plug it up on a water crossing. So a snorkel, maybe some additional lights for the front, some driving lights. Keen to do a roof rack at some point, not super high up on my priorities. I want to do I don't think I'll do a full canopy on this. I don't know, I might, but I think I'm more leaning towards just like a tray toolbox, like a large one that I can just fit my boxes and stuff in that I don't want to get dirty and wet, and then I can lock up so it's not inside the vehicle here. And I do need to do at some point a dual battery setup, but for now I can get by using my power station. That thing works well. The EcoFlow Delta works perfectly fine for 2-3 days at a time. But when I do my extended trips and when I do my lap of Australia, which is coming up in the next couple of years, I will have to get a dedicated dual battery system for this vehicle. So apart from that though, guys, I'm loving this car. I am, and I think I'm going to leave it there. I think I'm going to switch off the camera, and I think I'm just going to enjoy driving the rest of the way in my 79 series Landcruiser. So thank you for joining me. I'm sure I've missed out some things on this vehicle, but if I've missed something, put it down in the comment section. If you have any questions, as always, let me know. And if you guys could do me a massive favor, the biggest favor of all is to click subscribe. That would really make my day if you could do that. And we're building a great community here, a great positive community where we're lifting each other up and we're trying to better each other's knowledge. And if you guys have, likewise, if you have any suggestions for modifications I should be doing next to this vehicle, you go ahead and you let me know down in the comment section. And I'm going to enjoy the rest of this drive. So I'm going to leave you guys to it, and I'll see you later on. Thanks for joining me.